Okay, so we have talked about how price, if I'm trying to determine what price should I sell my new wall hanging for, or my fancy hair bows, or whatever it is that I'm selling, and I'm uncertain about what price I should charge. Surpluses and shortages are signals of how the market values my good. So let's say I decide to price my good high, and so I'm pricing it at $6. At $6, it's very attractive for me to make this good, and so I would like to make 30 of them. On the other hand, it is not very attractive for people to purchase at this price, and my consumers only want to buy 6. So I make 30, people only buy 6, so I have excess supply or a surplus. That's the condition when quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded, and we have these things just sitting around. On the flip side of that, if I lowered my price down to $2, at that case, I am not as excited about supplying this at a price of $2. I only want to make 10 because I'm not making much of a profit. On the other hand, it is considerably more attractive to buyers, and so quantity demanded here is 18. So in this case, people want 18 of these things, and I only want to make 8. And so I have here a shortage, or only want to make 10. So I have a shortage of 8. So a shortage is excess demand. That occurs when quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. So now I don't have enough to go around. That's a signal that I should increase price. As I start increasing price, right, some people will decide, hey, I'm not as excited about buying that as I was before. And so now instead of 18, only 17 people want this good. On the other hand, as price starts to go up, it becomes more attractive for me to produce them. And so instead of the 10 that I wanted to produce, I want to produce 12. If I make it here to $3, I want to produce 15. People want to buy 15 at this price. Unless something else changes, there's no tendency for anything else to change. I keep making 15, people keep buying 15, and the world remains the same. Although, if we're talking about an entire economy, you can imagine how often that happens, that everything stays the same. People's income, the prices of inputs, the prices of related goods, etc. So the interesting part of our model will be thinking about what do we do when other things change? Okay, and what we do when other things change is a 3-step process. To determine the effects of any event, first, I want you to decide whether the event shifts the supply curve or the demand curve. So if it's a change in consumer income, it affects the demand curve. If it's a change in technology, it's going to affect the supply curve. Then you need to know which direction the curve shifts. Is this an increase in demand? Is this a decrease in demand, etc.? Then you're going to use the supply and demand diagram to see how the shift changes equilibrium P and Q. So for example, this is demand and this is supply, and we're happy here at equilibrium with no surpluses and shortages. But I tell you that consumer income increases. You would say, step 1, that's going to affect the demand curve. Step 2, if this is a normal good and people are richer, they will want more at any price. So I'm going to get a rightward shift of the demand curve. And so this, the place where the new lines cross, is my new answer. But here's the deal. When consumer incomes increase, firms don't draw this supply and demand figure and say to themselves, aha, I have now found the place where the new lines cross. That is the answer. What they do instead is look at surpluses and shortages as a signal to what they should do. Should they produce more? Should they raise price, etc.? So the most important step here is 4, okay? If you don't do 4, you will only get partial credit. I want you to tell the story of how surpluses and shortages led to the changes. Now, that's not a once upon a time kind of story. I'm interested in a very simple story, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so Disney does the funny thing where they have a movie and they say, we are going to take this movie off the shelves and we're not going to sell it for 7 years or something like that. What if they announce that that is about to happen? And they say, we're about to put Beauty and the Beast in the vault and you will not be able to purchase it. What do you expect that will happen immediately? Okay, well, people are going to decide, I better get it now if I want to get it. So that's going to affect the demand curve. We're going to get an increase in demand. All right, now, when that happens, let's say that movie costs $15. Initially, the price doesn't change, right? Suppliers don't care that people want more unless they're willing to pay more. So at that price of P1, suppliers keep supplying Q1. But now at that price, people demand a higher quantity than Q1. So at my original price, quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied. And so what's that? A surplus or a shortage? That's a shortage. I don't have enough to go around. So now I don't have these movies on the shelf. What is that a signal to do? That's a signal that we should increase price. Okay, price should be higher. What happens as we start increasing price? So now the movie is $16. Are there going to be some people that decide, never mind, I don't want Beauty and the Beast that badly? Sure. As price goes up, we're going to get a decrease in quantity demanded. Some people are going to change their mind, and we're going to move upward along the demand curve, or we're going to move, our quantity demanded is going to decrease. But on the other hand, it becomes more attractive to supply. And so suppliers say, I'll make more of that at that higher price. It's more profitable for me to do so. So we move along this curve until we reach this equilibrium point where we're supplying more. So we have a higher Q and also a higher price. So the shortage signals the firm that they should raise price. And in response to that higher price, some people decide they are not interested in this good anymore, but firms decide it is more attractive to supply it until these things are equal. Okay, let's try this one. So now we're again in the market for chicken nuggets. Start out at equilibrium. And now corn has just gotten more expensive. All right, if you buy chicken nuggets, do you care about that if the price you pay for chicken nuggets doesn't change? No, you don't. This affects supply. It makes chicken nuggets more expensive to produce and therefore less profitable. The supply curve is going to shift and we're going to want to supply less at any price. So we get a decrease in supply. That means at our original price, people still demand Q1, but now I only want to supply this lower quantity. So at P1, quantity demanded is greater than quantity supplied, and we have a shortage. We don't have enough chicken nuggets to go around. In response to that shortage, shortages tend to push price upwards. At that higher price, it becomes more attractive to supply chicken nuggets. So we start moving upward along the supply curve, but at the same time, it becomes less attractive to eat chicken nuggets. So quantity demanded decreases until we reach this new equilibrium where we're paying for a higher price, but a lower quantity. Okay. At this point, if you're going to listen to me, I would like you to consider this. The government increases its corn subsidy. What happens in the market for corn? So I would like you to pause this, take a moment and draw this, and also try to tell the story, remembering that the story is the most important part. And you really should try it because I won't be drawing these for you on your exam. Okay, great. I'm going to take it on faith that you have done that. If you're a consumer, you don't really care that corn is subsidized unless you get cheaper corn. But if you are the producer, you do. And this makes it more profitable. So we're going to get an increase in supply. So at our original price, quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded. The red dot represents quantity supplied. Quantity demanded hasn't changed, so it's back here at this black dot. So quantity supplied is greater than quantity demanded, and that is a surplus. So we have corn sitting around. The suppliers don't like the corn sitting around. The surplus is a signal that we should decrease price. As price falls, some people decide that they should eat more corn at that lower price, but it becomes less attractive to supply. And so we get an increase in quantity demanded, a decrease in quantity supplied, until we reach our new equilibrium point at a lower price and a higher quantity. All right, again, you should try this one on your own and see if you can tell the story. So a new version of some electronic device has been released. What happens in the market for the old one? All right. In this case, let's not think about supply yet, because the issue that we have with supply, we are going to touch on in the next chapter. But let's assume if you had to pay the old price and the new phone is out, you don't want it. So that's going to be a decrease in demand, right? So at that original price, nothing has happened to quantity supplied. It's still back here. But quantity demanded has fallen. So quantity demanded is less than quantity supplied. And that's a surplus. What happens when we have a surplus? A surplus is a signal that we need to lower prices to get these things off our shelves. As we do that, some people say, yeah, fine, I'll take the old phone, and quantity demanded starts to increase. And suppliers maybe decide they're still willing, or they are not at the lower price, they don't want to supply that thing anymore. And so quantity supplied tends to decrease. Now you might be saying to yourself, well, what if they already have a fixed stock and they're just trying to get rid of them? That's the thing that we'll address in the next chapter. But the way I've drawn it here, we will move down to a lower quantity and a lower price. Okay, the last thing that we have to do is to consider a shift in both supply and demand together, but I'm going to take that as a separate thing.